What's up guys, Greg here with Lensprotogo and welcome to another Cinematography Lighting Breakdown. Today we're going to be looking at this shot that's right behind me. It's a very brightly lit, commercial looking lighting setup. I'm going to play a little sequence that we cut together and then we'll get into the breakdown. Cool, so those are the two shots we're going to be looking at today. Let's jump in the computer and I'll show you where we started and how we got to this point. First, here's a shot from my iPhone when I went to scout the location. There's a couple of things to note right off the bat. First is the size of the space. It was very small, and that's important to know when deciding on how much gear and which lights you can get into the location and still be able to move around. Next was that there was fluorescence overhead, and right away we knew this would be something we'd have to turn off because of the gross green color cast. Lastly, there were 3 windows in the room, the one you can see here, and then one on either side of the walls outside of frame. For this first shot though, we wanted to have complete control, so we wouldn't have to deal with outside lights changing, so we tucked ourselves into one of the darkest corners without a lot of light spill. Now, knowing those things, we can get to work. Some quick camera specs so you know what we're working with. We shot on the Arri Alexa Mini in 4K. We had a white balance of 5600 Kelvin, ISO was set to 800, and we were at a T2.8 on the Sigma Cine zooms at 65mm. I'll put a more detailed list of the specs in the description below. Throughout this video, I'm going to be jumping back to this overhead view of the lighting setup to point out which light is turning on, and also so you can see the placement and spatial relationship, not just what it's doing. Now let's start looking at some frames. This first one here is just how the camera was seeing it without any of our lights on, again at 800 ISO and a T2.8. The first light we added was the Hive Wasp as our key. Now this is a pretty punchy light, so we had to shoot it through some diffusion, and we used the Westcott Scrim Gym 4x6. And even with that, it was still a little too bright, so we dropped in some scrims to knock it down. Once we had proper exposure on her skin, we wanted to get some separation between her and the background, and also bring up the levels on that bookshelf behind her. For this, we used a 4-foot Quasar tube, boomed overhead just outside of the frame, like you can see here in this overhead view. If we go back to the shot and I toggle it on and off, you can see exactly what it's doing, giving a really nice edge and lifting up the exposure on the bookshelf behind her. Really just giving us a nice overall exposure lift as well. The last light that we added was another edge light, but this one coming more from the side, to mainly add a little more on the books and brighten up her hair. It's also casting a shadow of the bookshelf to her left, which makes it feel not so flat as she's moving through the space. It's a lot more noticeable during playback, so I'll play that for you right now, and keep an eye on her hair on the right. Cool, so that's the wide shot. Now let's jump in and take a quick look at the hand insert. For this, we didn't change too much besides moving the diffusion closer to soften the light even more, and then we also lowered the Quasar tube because the light was spilling over to the back of her hand and we really wanted to keep it as an edge light. And that's going to do it for this setup. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. We have a lot more videos like this coming out, and I'll see you guys in the next one.